Man, Dominaria has a lot of awesome cards. Let's talk about the juiciest ones. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, and welcome to my video on the top 15 cards, top 15 most valuable cards from Dominaria. Now let's cover a few bases. Why do I do these videos? This is to inform people who aren't that informed so that when they go to pre-releases, they won't be taken advantage of. I've seen it too much in the past. We are using Canadian prices from face-to-face games if you want to reference those. So, that out of the way, let's dive on in. We're starting out with number 15, which is Phyrexian Scriptures, coming in at $8. This is the first saga that we're going to talk about. Now, this card is pretty interesting. Obviously, you can use it to beef up one of your own creatures and make sure that it survives through the creatures being destroyed during the second phase of it. So basically, the turn after you play it, it's going to wipe out pretty much all the creatures on the board aside from artifact creatures. So it works similarly to a Damnation, and then afterwards it removes the graveyard. This is one of those cards where honestly, I'm not sure if it's positioned right price-wise, if it'll move up or down. It's not one that you can easily just go, this is automatically going to go in one direction, because it's got a lot of potential. So that's an interesting one. Number 14 is Grand Warlord Radha. Now, I really like this card. I find it to be a lot of fun. I like the fact that you get mana equal to the number of creatures that you're attacking with. You get to choose the red and the green, and that it stays with you till the end of turn. That mana does not go away at the end of a phase as usual. That's pretty cool. And the whole throwback, this is Radha in the future as a Grand Warlord now. We saw the earlier bloodthirsty version of her where she was leaner and blood-slicked, and this is the much older, like, I am the tribal war chief now, so I can eat more spoils. I'm the big lord kind of thing. That's all right, man. I'm totally cool with this card. Number 13. Oh my god, this one's a beast, guys. Steel Leaf Champion. 3 mana for a 5/4. Oh, if I didn't say it, Radha's $9, sorry. Steel Leaf Champion, 5/4, 3 mana, coming in at $10. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. This thing is absurd. It's going to be in the same format that has Llanowar Elves. You can go first turn Llanowar Elves, second turn Steel Leaf Champion. And they have to have big creatures to be able to block it. This thing is going to do a lot of damage to people. This card is really strong. I really like it. I love huge green creatures. Next up, we got another card I'm a huge fan of, and that is number 12, Shalai, Voice of Plenty. 4 mana for a 3/4 flying angel is not too shabby to start with, but it gives your planeswalkers, you, and your other creatures hexproof on top of having a crazy green aligned ability that puts a +1/+1 counter on each of your creatures. I genuinely enjoy this white-green angel thing. I like it. I'm a holdover from the Mirage days of Azmira Holy Avenger and stuff. I definitely enjoy the concept of this card, and I think it's pretty powerful too. I would not be surprised to see this one go up a little more in value, even though it's just a rare. Then we've got Demon Lord Belzenlock. Now, from a card standpoint, the actual physical card and what he does, he is a $10 card, just like Shalai and the one before. He is very interesting in terms of he allows you to get cards off the top of your deck and eliminates land draw. So he's guaranteeing that you're going to get cards that you can use, and you can get multiple cards depending on the casting cost. So the mechanics behind the card are very interesting. I personally don't like Demon Lord Belzenlock because I feel like they just shoved him into the story to bring the Gatewatch in, and it's just, it doesn't feel well. It doesn't feel right, I should say, in the story to me. So, but the card is perfectly fine power-wise level. I wouldn't be surprised to see this go up in value if he can find a good home in the meta. Number 10 is Dara Gods Reincarnated. This is cool. One of those old school invasion dragons brought back. And this guy's nuts. He's got King Cube written all over him. 7/7 flying, trample, and haste. And if he dies, instead you exile him with 3 egg counters on it, remove an egg counter during each of your upkeeps, and then he comes back ready to go. And I love that. And I love the fact that the egg counters are a throwback to the Triassic Egg, which was a card from Legends, which lets you put creatures from your hand into play. That is very cool. Number 9 is Torgor, Famine Incarnate. That is 8 mana for a 7/6, but you can sacrifice creatures to reduce its cost by 2 for every creature you sacrificed. And when he comes into play, one player, obviously it's going to be your opponent, basically loses half their life. It's just straight up boom. Your life total becomes half of what it was. That's pretty crazy considering that there are a lot of token generating cards. It's probably not going to be too hard to get him out cheap and quick. So Torgar is one. $12 feels like the right place for this guy, but he might slip down a bit. He might be more impressive upon reading than actually in play. It may be one of those fantasies you have in your head where, oh yeah, I could have 3 creatures and get them out for 2 by sacking them all, but when you actually get down to playing, you may find out it doesn't quite pan out. So we'll see. We will see what happens with Torgar. That's one where I'm not sure what's going to go. Moldratha is number 8, and this is also a $12 card. Moldratha the Gravetide, which is a really flavorful name. And this card is nuts, dude. This is crazy. 6 mana gets you a 6/6. During each of your turns, you may play up to 1 permanent card of each permanent type from your graveyard. That is amazing. The flavor text I enjoy as well. My child grew from rotten ruin, yet she bloomed. That's pretty cool. Like, that's a quote from Multani. I enjoy that. And this card seems really, really cool. Like, this is something that's probably going to be snapped up by a lot of Commander players, and it's just, I think in Standard it might end up dropping a bit in value, but I think this is one of those cards that over time will just get snapped up into people's personal collections, and will just go up and up and up and up and up. Like, foils of Moldratha seem like a good card to be hanging on to. That's my opinion. Jaya Ballard is coming in at number 7 here. Now, this is interesting, because Jaya Ballard was always about, I'm going to set everything on fire, burn, burn, burn. And this Planeswalker version of her shows an older, more wizened version, and it's not just about fire, right? I mean, the first ability is to add red mana that you can use for instants or sorceries that don't necessarily have to be burn spells. The second allows you to draw and discard to get through your deck. And the third ability lets you play instants and sorceries from a graveyard. So there's nothing that automatically makes it fire aligned. Obviously, she has like the fire cascading in her hand. But what I'm trying to say is it shows, before she was all just burn everything. Now maybe she's got a wider approach. She may still just be a pyromaniac, but the option is there for it to be something more, which I enjoy from a flavor perspective. Next up, we got another Planeswalker. This one is Chandra Bold, Pyromancer. She is coming in at number 6. She's also $12. This one lets you add red mana and do 2 damage with the +1 ability, which seems really nice. I mean, that's a nice speed you up and hit your opponent at the same time. And if you want to kill a creature or smack a Planeswalker, you can bolt them with the -3 ability, which is all right. The ultimate is one that's, I don't know. I mean, you only need to activate her first ability twice to get to the ultimate, but I feel like the ultimate is underwhelming. This card, depending on how much the first 2 abilities really matter, I think, that's going to determine where its price is going to go. I could easily see this one slipping down in all honesty. This feels to me like one of those Planeswalkers that may be this price just because it's a Planeswalker. Time will tell on that one. Moving on to the next card, we've got History of Analia. This is number 5, coming in at $13. Now, as a card itself, it's perfectly fine. I mean, for 3 mana, you get a Knight the turn you put it out, you get a Knight the next turn, and they boost. The artwork for the saga, I think, is gorgeous. I love the stained glass thing. The problem I have with this card is it doesn't feel like it fits the flavor. It doesn't. Like, Analia wasn't all knights. If you look at most of the cards, Banalish, anything referencing Analia, most of them aren't knights. There's some soldiers, there's some different, the wizards, all these different creature types. They weren't just focused on being knights. I think this may be Wizards just kind of wanting to rewrite the history of Analia, because honestly, if you look back into the real history of Analia, it's the kind of stuff that would make the current social justice climate at Wizards, though, they would throw up in their mouths if they thought about it. Because literally, old Analia was rape culture. It literally, like, if you go back into their past, you'll see if the women of a lower caste were forced to have sex with men of higher castes on a whim. If they wanted them, they had to submit to them. And the castes, they roll every year, so the top one moves to the bottom. So basically, everybody gets a chance to be, hey, you have to service me sexually. That is part of Magic canon. That's Magic history. That's the history of Analia, all right? That's not going to make a good card. I know, it's just, that part blew my mind. There was something that really triggered me about this, tickled my brain about this card that made me go, there's something that doesn't feel right. So I looked into it, and that turned out to be what it was. But if you divorce it from that and just look at the power level of the card, it does seem pretty potent. I mean, time will tell if it actually is worth $13 or if it'll drift downwards. It depends on how aggressive a build you're playing, I think. But that's, you know what, that's about all I have to say on that one. Let's move on. Number 4, Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. He is pretty cool, honestly. I really enjoy his abilities. He feels like a time mage, because that's what he is. Teferi is a time mage, and his first ability is draw a card at the beginning of the next end step on top 2 lands. So it's like a delayed sort of time trigger. I like that. The -3 ability is to put a non-land permanent into its owner's library 3rd from the top. That definitely feels like time manipulation. And -8 ability, the ultimate, is you get an emblem with whenever you draw a card, exile target permanent opponent controls. Banish them through time. The whole thing feels like a great time mage setup to me. I really enjoy this particular Teferi. I don't like, I set up the cardboard stand-up, and they have this really angry, non-Teferi looking dude on it that's supposed to be Teferi. You only know it's Teferi because you can see he's holding the staff. But I had multiple people ask me while I was putting it together, yo, who is that? And I'm like, that's Teferi. Like, that's Teferi? So, whatever. The artwork on this is much better. He looks like an old wizened time mage. I enjoy that. $20 on him. Let's move onwards. Lyra Dawnbringer. Oh my god, I love the stained glass armor. It is so cool. She looks epic as hell. 5 mana for a 5/5 flyer with first strike and lifelink. That is also an angel lord that gives you +1/+1 for all your other angels and lifelink. That's crazy. The flavor text is stupid, but the rest of the card is awesome, honestly. $20 on this. I could see this easily going higher. This has a feeling of a Baneslayer angel level almost. Maybe even better with boosting your other angels. I don't know. It's solid. I could see this one going up. Number 2, MOX Amber. Well, you know when you hear about a MOX, you know it's going to be a big deal, right? And this one's $38 currently. Now, does it deserve that price tag? I don't know. When it comes to MOXs, you think quick, easy mana. And obviously there are varying degrees. You have the original MOXs from the beginning of the game, which are the absolute best. And then you have newer MOXs like Chrome MOX, MOX Diamond, which are also potent. Not quite as potent as the original in some cases, but still very strong. This one won't produce a mana right away unless you happen to have a legendary creature. So that first turn explosiveness, it's not going to be able to accelerate you the same way on the first turn. The only way you're going to be able to get mana out of it on the first turn is if you happen to have a 1-cost legendary creature you play first, and then you're only going to be able to get that 1 more mana. So it's not like you're going to be that much ahead of your opponent on the first turn. However, it still is a 0-cast mana accelerant that only requires you to have a legendary creature and planeswalker. So, is the $38 price justified for the current meta? I'm guessing not. I'm guessing this is at its current price because of hype based on the fact that it's a MOX, and I think that like EDH commander players will be really stoked about this. Obviously this fits great into those kind of decks, and don't get me wrong, obviously there's significant power to a card. Any artifact you can put out for 0 that can tap for mana for you can definitely be very powerful, but I just don't know if $38 is a reasonable price tag for this card. Let's move on to the number 1 on the list. Karn, Scion of Urza, Child of Urza is essentially what they're saying. And I like this. I enjoy the artwork. I like that he's got his hand on the globe representing Dominaria. He's got that book open. And he's really interesting because he has no ultimate ability. His first ability lets you reveal the top 2 cards of your deck. Your opponent's going to pick one and exile it. You're going to put the other in your hand. His other ability lets you get those exiled cards that your opponent didn't want you to have, so you can even get the better cards back. And his third ability just generates creatures that will keep growing as you generate more creatures. He's very interesting. And is this the first time they've done a planeswalker with no ultimate? I can't remember. I know that it's very rare when they do a planeswalker without an ultimate. But either way, he's $45. Is that price tag justified? I don't know. A lot of the money in new sets tends to get pushed into planeswalkers and planeswalker hype. $45 feels like a lot. Seeing him in action may change my mind on this, but I feel like he's more like a $30 card. Just my opinion. So, that wraps up the top 15 cards from Dominaria in terms of value. Let me know what you guys think of these cards, and also, let me know what you think in terms of where the prices are going to go. Huh? We'll share our thoughts that way. So thanks for coming by, and I'll see you in a second in another room. All right, Vlad, you want